Ahead on American Sunrise, the IRS reportedly stopped a probe into the Clinton Foundation shortly after it began. Yeah, your question's just like mine. Why? We'll take a look. Plus, Russia is reportedly being non-committal on a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Coming up, how the White House feels about the situation, plus the latest prospect for a trilateral talk. All of that's ahead, and despite protests breaking out in the nation's capital, the Trump administration continues to tout the success of the new crime-fighting deployments to keep D.C. safe. Those stories and so much more right now on American Sunrise.
Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
We have breaking news to share with you.
politics,
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
we've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrence.
And I'm Dr. Gina. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Gina. We are live with you from the Palm Beaches. Let's bring in Emily Finn, who is with me here in West Palm Beach, and Terrence Bates in our Denver newsroom. Good morning to both of you. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, Gina. The countdown to the weekend is on.
It is. I know Terrence
my
is counting.
countdown started on Monday. my countdown started on Monday. Hey, look, guys, the Clinton Foundation back in the headlines this morning. Just the News has this headline, which reads, IRS began criminal probe into Clinton Foundation in 2019, but then suddenly stopped, memos show. Those memos also show that apparently there were orders out not to talk about the Clinton Foundation at all. Just the News found out about all of this through FOIA requests, which were ultimately honored. Dr. Gina, what do you make of all of this?
Well, really what needs to happen is the Clintons just need to go away. A little bit like Obama. Like they keep coming back like that rash that you get that you don't really know what caused it or why it has to be so annoying. They remind me a lot of that. Here's the thing. We all just want to see people punished for what they've done. We want to see them exposed. We want to see them punished. And I don't know about you guys, how you feel, but I was talking to the J6ers this past week on Thursday or Friday or whatever day that was. And at this, one thing they pointed out was at this point in the Biden administration, there had been so many arrests of patriots and probably others, but so many arrests that you couldn't count them. And I think a lot of us just want to see arrests. I'm not fantasizing the Clintons are going to be arrested, but I would just like to see some justice served, Emily.
Certainly, some kind of accountability. And Gina, as we were talking about this morning, the Biden administration was asleep at the wheel when it actually came to policy making and doing anything good for the American people. They were way more focused on some kind of revenge mission. And so I think with the Trump administration, like we were talking about, Gina, they are doing so much good and they are so focused on doing things that really are going to make an impact and a difference. So I think they are finally going to get to this eventually, but there's just a lot on their plate.
When I hear things like don't even talk about the Clinton Foundation, it brings to mind the deep state and how active the deep state remains. And it's just a shame. If investigators don't have enough evidence or don't think they've been able to uncover enough evidence, that's one thing. But to put out a memo to say, don't even talk about it, don't even discuss it, it raises some serious questions in probably most people's minds, Dr.
Yeah,
G.
there were, not this network, but there were conservative outlets who would not allow their talent to talk about the Clinton Foundation. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it raises questions. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Anyway, would you get us to our Bible verse, please? Because I want to talk about something positive.
Let's do that. Galatians 5:22 and 23. Be the fruit of the Spirit, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such there is no law. Oh, my poor children, the number of times I've tried to say this to them. Anyway, we are now seeing reports that President Trump intends to leave Russia and Ukraine to organize a meeting between Putin and Zelensky without his involvement. Of course, he is the impetus for all of this, so he can still, I believe, take credit for whatever positive comes of it. J.D. Vance is hopeful the issues can be worked out as well. Take a listen.
I think the president's preference and my preference would be, let's have them meet regardless. You don't have to figure out every issue. And sometimes leaders sitting down face to face can break the logjam that their teams don't necessarily have the ability to do. There really are two big questions lingering out there. And in some ways it's very simple, but in some ways it's very complicated. Number one is Ukraine wants to know that it's not going to get invaded again by Russia. It wants to know that it's got territorial integrity long into the future. The Russians want certain pieces of territory, most of which they've occupied, but some of which they haven't. So that is really where the meat of the negotiation is. The Ukrainians want security guarantees. The Russians want a certain amount of territory. Again, we finally got the details. We're working on them, but we haven't figured everything out. And I don't think that we should force, we shouldn't say that they can't sit down until you figured out every little detail. Sometimes them sitting down is what facilitates figuring out those details.
I don't know how I feel about this, but it doesn't matter. Let's bring in Chief White House Correspondent Brian Glenn. Brian, I guess the comfort that I took in President Trump being there was I feel like he's the adult in the room, sort of almost a mediator, a facilitator. He is the man who knows how to make unprecedented deals and negotiations. I worry if President Trump isn't there that anything's actually going to come of this.
And that's my segment. You guys have a great day. Dr. Gina, I could not agree with you more. Without him there, I don't think anything gets done. I've even heard speculation that since he's not scheduled to be there, there's no urgency to get something on the books. And if you do get something on the books and he's scheduled to be there, they're not going to cancel it. You're not going to flake out and cancel an appointment when President Trump is scheduled to be on that meeting. So we still don't have a location, obviously. We don't have a time that's when this is going to happen. But I do agree with J.D. Vance on this. Let's just sit down. Let's have them down. We don't have to have everything figured out. We don't have to have all the details and the T's crossed and the I's dotted. You don't need that right now. You just need the two leaders to get together and then go from there. But as of right now, the Kremlin is really downplaying any, meeting in the short term. But we'll see if President Trump can't step in, and maybe he does step in here in the next couple of days and say, look, maybe I need to facilitate this meeting and be there myself.
Brian, I do want to switch gears to this as well. Vice President J.D. Vance, along with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, they all spoke at a meeting with National Guard troops as protests broke out outside. And here's what Vance had to say. Want to get your reaction to this.
Mr. Vice President, why are troops stationed here at Union Station on the National Mall instead of areas in D.C. where crime is statistically highest?
Well, if you've ever been to Union Station in the last few years with your family, you know that crime is actually extremely high right here in Union Station. You have vagrants, you have drug addicts, you have the chronically homeless, you have the mentally ill who harass, who threaten violence, who attack families, and they've done it for far too long. This should be a monument to American greatness. This should be a place where you can come and share a meal or go shopping with your family. It should not be a place where parents of small children are afraid to bring them because, to Stephen's point, we've empowered criminals over the people who actually need public safety in the city. So I think Union Station is a great example of what's possible when you actually have the political willpower to bring law and order and common decency back to the public spaces of the United States of America.
Ongoing effort to crack down on crime there in D.C. Brian, what more can you tell us about these protests breaking out?
Yeah, this is not going to be the end of those protests. I saw that. I heard the sound bites coming from Stephen Miller, which I can listen to him all day talk about these, 90-year-old white protesters out there with nothing else to do. There's three things that make up a liberal: overly educated, affluent, and bored. And that's exactly what these people are over at Union Station. That might be one of the reasons why they turned off the fountains years ago, as you could commonly see naked homeless people in those fountains taking what you would call a makeshift bath. But that area needs to be cleaned up. If the liberals want to get upset because we're trying to make our city safe, get the homeless where they need to be, people who need help in the shelters they need to be, if they want to fight this, and I think that's going to be on the losing end of the poll of the public opinion, because most people with half a brain that live in this city want these streets safer, and the D.C. police, enhanced police presence, and National Guard is certainly doing that. We've got the numbers. We went over them yesterday. Everything is down. Carjacking down. Armed robbery is down. Assaults are down. That's a good thing. Stats are dropping, and it's all in the favor. And, of course, approval rating for President Trump on this issue continues to rise.
Hey, Brian, we're about 10 days into this D.C. crackdown. The president, at this point, has 30 days to get it all under control, or at least he has the authority to keep this up for 30 days. He has said publicly that he'd like to extend that 30 days. Where does the White House stand in the effort to potentially extend that, and what's happening behind the scenes to extend the National Guard influence and President Trump's federalization of the D.C. Police Department, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're still looking for an exact answer to that, and that's one of the things I was perhaps going to ask today. There's also, and I want to point out, there's also a protest tent that's outside the White House on the other side of the North Lawn, the big black fence. You've probably, if you've been to D.C., you've noticed it. It's been there since 1981. That was originally kind of put up to protest nuclear arms. And since then, it's been kind of a ground zero for every radical, communist type of protest that wants to come to D.C. My question for him would be also today, can we throw that into the mix as far as the beautification of D.C., getting these homeless encampments off? That's a state park. That is a federal park there. Park police patrol that along with Secret Service. That, in my opinion, is also a violation of what President Trump is trying to crack down in the city. But that, indeed, is one of the questions I might have for him today.
Should protesters be paid? I mean, I would be the most ardent defender of our First Amendment, but should protesters be paid? Because these protesters are paid, and then the news media uses it to make people in America think they're crazy, that they don't agree with these radical ideas.
Yeah. They're actually, it's manned 24/7. It's ever since 1981. There's a whole list. You can go look on Wikipedia. You can read about it, who's been in charge. Occupy DC has been one of the organizations that's had an association with that tent, if you will. I've had people tell me, and these are people that are very close to that tent, that tell me it's rat infested, got feces, people live in it, it's a health concern, it's a safety concern as well, because that is an area that someone could ultimately perhaps plant some type of device or anything like that. So as far as a public safety standpoint, that's a complete violation. I think they've been flying in under the freedom of speech and freedom of protest, and I think that ship has sailed a long time. Right now, there's a lady walking around with a Jesus flag, and she's playing praise and worship music. I encourage that. I encourage anybody who wants to walk around with a sign. If you hate Trump and you want to walk around in the morning with your hate Trump sign, that's fine. But you cannot put up a homeless tent, fly that under the protest flag, and be able to do that and be kind of ground zero for all these nut jobs that come to our nation's capital. It's an eyesore. If you ever try to take a family picture in front of the White House, that's going to be in your background potentially. Get rid of it. I say we beautify D.C. all the way up to that north fence here at the White House.
Sounds good to me, Brian. I don't think you're going to get much disagreement here. Have a great day. Absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, B.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, coming up, we're going to check out the hottest headlines from the Wrap Newsroom with T. Bates. And later, could the crime cleanup effort in D.C. spread across the country? We're going to talk about that on American Sunrise.